When mates go into transnational digital bank robbery together, it's probably going to end badly. Muhammad Ali Waheed hung his former best friend, Hassan Mujtaba Mehdi, out to dry. The courtroom drama of O'Brien versus Supercheap Security exposes the trade in Mule bank accounts fueling digital bank robbery. Criminals exploit technology and legal loopholes faster than police can stop them. But the banks exploit loopholes too.
This has become the most profitable crime on earth because it's such a high profit crime and such a low risk.
This isn't just a story of two men turning on each other in a dramatic end to their 8-year-long bromance. It exposes exactly how digital bank robbers mislead banks, regulators, victims and each other to steal our national prosperity and security. Mehdi tricked NAB into setting up a Mule bank account for a sham company called Supercheap Security. His mate, Waheed, gave the logins and NAB Connect app to overseas criminals for the princely sum of $13,000. And those criminals used it to steal 10 times that amount, including $500,000 from Joe O'Brien, the lead plaintiff. NAB then let the money go offshore, in direct contradiction of an enforceable undertaking with AUSTRAC to stop its money laundering and terrorism financing. I'm Alex Brooks, and this is episode 6 of Daylight Robbery. The only thing super cheap about this story is the moral compass of those involved. Hassan Mehdi is a man of many entrepreneurial talents and birthplaces. Mehdi owns Click Security, a licensed security business that installs CCTV equipment. It's such a trusted company that Click Security has won multiple awards and has endless 5-star reviews. Mehdi has other companies and businesses too. The problem is that some of Mehdi's ASIC-registered businesses claim he was born on February 1, 1991 in Pakistan, while others claim he was born on February 1, 1991 in Werribee, Victoria. Mehdi also claims to have an Islamic birth date of September 11. Coincidentally, September 11 is the date Mehdi told the court his mother sadly died from the Delta strain of COVID-19, the grief from which was why he needed to sell his spare company, Supercheap Security, to his mate, Waheed. Mehdi claimed he didn't have the energy to run that company after his mother sadly passed. Supercheap Security used its NAB business bank account to impersonate an AMP term deposit and steal $1.36 million from 12 Australians. Mehdi and Waheed were so brazen, so confident their Supercheap bank robbery would never be connected to them, they didn't try to hide a thing. Okay, well, Waheed did try to hide his face when he went on ABC TV from his new home in Dubai to do this bizarre interview.
Mr. Waheed, if you have nothing to hide, why can't we see your face?
The thing is, when you use that word scam or the word like you are involved in any other way, it's very hard in the society to survive,
You know how it is. Scammers don't like to be called scammers. They're business people. Waheed has gotten off scot-free, admitting on ABC he was paid $13,000 to hand over those NAB bank logins for the fraud. But it was Mehdi who was arrested at Melbourne Airport in November 2022, and Mehdi who spent 33 days in jail charged with 8 counts of obtaining property by deception. And Mehdi, who registered Supercheap Security with ASIC, our regulator, in 2021, is the one Justice Nixon says needs to repay the plaintiffs in this case. Now, Mehdi didn't want to talk to me for this podcast, but he did send me an email, and he claims his best mate Waheed scammed him, deceived and defrauded him. And you can't blame Mehdi for being ragingly mad at Waheed for dropping him in it. The judge's orders say Mehdi received at least 3 payments to his CommBank account from Waheed. Well, there were actually many payments and gifts from Ali, along with cash payments of $9,900 and transfers to Aussie Forex. Anyway, things spiralled out of control for Mehdi when he was arrested by Victoria Police trying to fly to Pakistan. He not only spent a month on remand, but had to pay $19,000 to lawyers to fight his arrest and another $35,000 on civil lawyers. Mehdi hasn't even begun repaying the $1.2 million Justice Nixon has ordered him to repay. I'm struggling to pay my kids' school dues, groceries, and even home rent, he told the judge, when he had to represent himself after running out of money. Cybercrime investigator Simon Smith says Australian scams are often layers of fraud, cons, or forgeries that are borderline legal and use cheaply available technology.
People are sort of half scammy, half not scammy in Australia and then maybe overseas. And it's so easy. And it doesn't help when police aren't motivated or they aren't actually investigating. If it smells international, they say, oh, no, not interested.
Mehdi the Mule may have created the Australian bank account that stole $1.36 million, but he certainly didn't take home that jackpot. Mehdi rents a rundown house on the outskirts of Melbourne from a local doctor and her husband. For a guy who works in security, he has a gaping round hole in his front door where a deadlock should be. He knows criminals don't steal old TVs or stereos anymore. It's bank accounts, mobile phones and identity documents they want. You see, Waheed and Mehdi might call themselves businessmen, but really, they're foot soldiers. Foot soldiers who march to the beat of their boss's drum, pushing the boundaries of the law because they're confident they can get away with it. Now, it was likely overseas bosses who employed those nice men with British accents to call victims from what appeared to be Australian phone numbers so they can set up their AMP term deposit. Well, their fake AMP term deposit.
Term deposits, a majority of them coming from a group in Dubai, a big British syndicate that is perpetrating these scams from Dubai and the UK.
That's investigator Ken Gamble, who says some term deposit scams are run from Thailand too. But Dubai is exactly where Waheed was when he did that dodgy disguised interview with the ABC. But let's wind back the clock. Back to 2014, when Mehdi the Mule first began his friendship with Waheed, the broker, in outer suburban Melbourne. A decade ago, Mehdi finished his diploma in electronics and telecommunications and worked hard at Sting Sports, a fast-rising boxing equipment company that's now gone global. Mehdi and Waheed became flatmates. Mehdi rented a room to Waheed for $385 a month within commuting distance to the Sting Sports Derrimut warehouse. Mehdi apparently liked his new flatmate so much, he got Waheed a job at Sting Sports too. This Aussie boxing gear company not only sponsored the Commonwealth Games, but is now the major sponsor of the Russian-affiliated International Boxing Association. From 2015 to 2018, the two friends had each other's backs, working together at Sting Sports. Evidence tendered to the court showed the mates worked together again at Chiesi, an Italian pharmaceutical company, also in Melbourne. Waheed, possibly inspired by Mehdi, also started his own security business. Waheed's registered business was called Crime Cop Security Services. Now, during Melbourne's difficult COVID lockdowns, Waheed sent Mehdi a Facebook message saying he needed a spare company for trading. Now, you or I might call trading something else. Scamming, maybe. But Mehdi had collected an array of companies and business names, so if he could be entrepreneurial and sell it to his mate, why not? In August 2021, Mehdi told Waheed it would cost $15,000 to $20,000 to buy his spare company. In a series of Facebook messages, you can see Waheed tell his mate, "We don't need stock, we only need company profiles." Waheed tries to negotiate down the price to buy Supercheap Security and says he will talk to my people and if they find it reasonable, they will buy. Mehdi told the court he had no idea his company would be used in a scam, but he also told the court the scams are done like that, targeting somebody or somebody having the middle. Justice Nixon found Mehdi was willfully blind about the way his company would be used. These term deposit frauds rely on a chain of mules in different countries to distance themselves from the crime. And most Australian mules only have to tell the police their identity was stolen, and that's usually enough to escape any kind of criminal charges.
I've done a lot of cases where I've actually helped to convict the mule, the mule, the poor innocent mule, at the end of the bank account. Bullshit. Yeah, I've done a lot of cases where I've actually looked closer and investigated them and they've been guilty.
That's Simon Smith, the cybercrime witness who says mules usually tell police a sob story about how they were down on their luck and didn't know they were doing anything criminal, and they usually get out of any charges.
And I've also civilly helped my customers sue a mule because the police wouldn't do anything. So we've taken them to court and sued them because technically if the money went into their bank account and then they willingly moved it on to someone else, it doesn't matter if they were under a deception. It's still the civil law stops it at that point, and you stole my money. You basically have to pay it.
Bigger frauds, like Supercheap Security, rely on more organised infrastructure, like legitimate companies and legitimate bank accounts. And in this case, Mehdi's legitimate company, Click Security, and his legitimate CommBank account took payments for his role setting up the NAB Supercheap fraud. Now, here's where it gets sort of interesting and annoyingly complex. At least 3 of NAB's Supercheap victims also had CommBank accounts. CommBank not only facilitated Joe's $500,000 loss to NAB, who were pretending to be AMP, but CommBank also facilitated the payment to Mehdi for setting up the fake NAB account that robbed Joe's CommBank account, holding her $500,000 divorce settlement. Confused? Yeah, I think everyone gets confused in these cases. Now, under the e-payments code, bank accounts that have been hacked or had PINs and passcodes revealed, like this Supercheap Security account, they're considered unauthorised. But this complex tangle of liability, conflicts of interest and crime often makes it too hard to prosecute anyone. Victorian police had to drop their criminal case against Mehdi on legal advice. And while the police escalated the case to the Australian Federal Police and Interpol, the AFP claimed this case rests firmly with Victoria Police. These crimes are so profitable that every Tom, Dick and influencer tries to make money selling their bank account or LinkedIn profiles on social media. Mules like Mehdi and Waheed are so brazen, they don't even bother hiding. In fact, they go on national television to explain how much money they made. And it all makes Australia a more attractive target for international cybercrime and internet fraud.
The task for victims of internet fraud to actually try to do something about it is pretty well insurmountable for the average person.
That's litigator Mark Carmody from Rule of Law, who won the case for the Supercheap victims. He proved that Supercheap Security was a sham company set up deliberately to receive fraudulent money to be laundered overseas. As the director of Supercheap Security, Justice Nixon ordered Hassan Mehdi, not NAB or Waheed, to repay the victims.
The facts were that Supercheap was set up 12 months prior to the bank account having been set up. And the reason for that is because one of the bare requirements the bank requires when setting up a bank account in a company name is that it be a clean company.
Mule bank accounts are opened, bought or rented for scams in Australia all the time. There's a rampant trade on messaging apps like WhatsApp, Telegram and Facebook where you can buy access to a CommBank or ANZ or Up bank account for as little as $50. But organised criminals don't want these personal bank accounts. They need a clean, pristine business account, ideally with a transaction limit of between $100,000 and $250,000. These business accounts can scam millions before fraud detection picks anything up. And they can legally launder money to overseas companies by pretending they're paying invoices and that they export. Now, money laundering is not only a Commonwealth crime, it's a state crime too. But our governments and police find it really complex to prosecute these cases. Investigator Ken Gamble says state police aren't properly resourced to investigate money laundering and fraud.
The proper channel is they should pass that on and escalate that up to the AFP. But unfortunately, what some of them do is they just close the case. They say that no PIIs in Australia, no offence committed in Australia, case closed.
PII stands for Personally Identifiable Information, which is the real currency of these crimes. That's identity documents for you and me. But it's also about the evidence to charge people with crimes. Connecting the dots between all those complex bank accounts, fake websites, spoofed phone numbers and sham companies just gets too hard. Court documents show NAB allowed Supercheap Security to quickly transfer $1 million to British and Middle Eastern companies controlled by Waheed's network of shady mates, a clear example of money laundering. NAB refused to answer my questions about this case, citing privacy and AUSTRAC obligations. The federal regulator AUSTRAC, they're the guys that look after money laundering and counter-terrorism financing, rarely comment on regulatory matters. But they did confirm they've extended NAB's enforceable undertaking so the bank can, quote, remediate its money laundering. Ken says the only way to stop this international digital bank robbery problem is for Australia to get tough on people like Waheed and his mates overseas, living it up on the $1.36 million of stolen and laundered money. That stolen money can now be spent on anything from yachts and designer watches to funding terrorist organisations that they feel need a few more weapons.
Confronting response means go over to their country and kick their doors in with a SWAT team and put guns to their head and arrest these people, throw them in handcuffs, put them in jail. That's what a confronting response is. That's what the AFP are constantly publicising when they take down drug syndicates, right? They want the criminals to know we're coming with force. But in the scam business, it's been the opposite for years. We want you to know that we're not going to come after you.
Investigator Dan Halpin agrees.
We speak with scammers. We have informers around the world, and they tell us that they know the Australian authorities won't go after them. Where on the flip side, the German police and the FBI are very proactive with following these guys overseas, not only shutting down their call centres, but they also arrest them.
The AFP never had a mandate to do this. They weren't allowed to investigate this type of fraud against individuals perpetrated from offshore criminal syndicates, which is absolutely crazy, right? But that's just the way that the law has been for many years.
The O'Brien versus Supercheap Security case did at least send a message that Australian mules can't just sell a bank account to scammers with no consequences. Now, Mehdi doesn't own any significant assets in Australia. Court documents show he sends most of the cash he earns through Click Security back to Pakistan. Australian mule bank accounts are kind of like a passport for international fraud and crime.
Fraud has always been something that sits outside the basket of organised crime. And this has now changed. The whole world has changed because of this.
No country seems able to solve this problem. But countries like Britain and even Russia have rules around reimbursement for these types of banking frauds. The Bank of Russia has slowed payment transfers to 2 days so that if a customer is defrauded by a known scammer on the Russian database, they're reimbursed within a month. Litigator Mark Carmody's methodical examination of the money trail in Supercheap Security found even more cause for alarm.
The evidence suggests these people were also running a scam through Suncorp, and there was a man on the ground in Sydney who was approving those payments.
Mark believes banks would rather pay fines to AUSTRAC for money laundering than reimburse people defrauded on their banking platforms.
It's easier to pay a fine rather than spend the money to set up systems so that victims don't get exploited, because that's expensive, or reimburse the victims, because that's very expensive.
Widespread global money laundering offers a dark and disturbing view of our future. This New South Wales Supreme Court case pulls back the curtain on how easily stooges and mules take the rap when the hammers of justice fall. In Australia, our hammers of justice are more like one of those oversized blow-up novelty hammers, designed to appear menacing, but so soft that even a big hit from the Supreme Court won't stop the profit-taking.
The shareholder-owned system tends to suck the social consciousness out of people.
At the end of this, who's making the money from these crimes?
Well, the bank makes a bit of money. They make money for providing banking services. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it.
It's criminals who make the most money. And if criminals make more money than governments, where does that leave the world? Next time on Daylight Robbery, I explain how I uncovered the problem with digital bank robbery and tell a very personal story. Subscribe and follow to get the next episode.